Welcome to the EV Charging for Education webinar. Before we get started today, I'd like to go through a few housekeeping notes. During today's session, all attendees will be muted. If you'd like to ask a question, we ask that you use the Q&A feature throughout the webinar. We'll attempt to get to as many questions as possible. Following the webinar, we will send a copy of this recording and the presentation to all attendees. In the interim, if you'd like to learn more about SemaConnect, we invite you to visit us at semaconnect.com or follow us on LinkedIn for more information. As I tee up the agenda here today, I'd like to take a quick poll to get a sense for who's joining us for today's session. Thank you for that. Today, we're excited to bring some new and exciting information about the latest EV market trends and projections for future growth. We'll talk about 3 factors that we believe are fueling the rapid adoption of electric vehicles. We'll talk a little bit about the change in the vehicle refueling paradigm as it relates to electric vehicles. And then we'll get to the meat of our presentation, where we'll talk about the benefits of bringing EV charging to your educational institution or your campus. We'll talk a little bit about how SemaConnect can help you get started, and we'll end with why now is the time to invest in EV charging. I'd like to introduce myself, Stephen Carroll, the VP of Marketing here at SemaConnect, and I'll serve as the moderator for today's session. Joining with me is Connie Meehan. She's a regional sales director here at SemaConnect, with several years of EV charging experience and insight. So let's get right to it. The reason that we're on this webinar today is we're all part of or have interest in the electric vehicle industry. One of the things that I would like to highlight, unless you've been living under a rock for the past few years, is that the electric vehicle market is literally on fire. We are seeing rapid growth, and that growth seems like there's no end in sight. As of today, there are over 2 million electric vehicles on the road in the United States. As a matter of fact, nearly 5.6 of all new car sales last quarter were electric vehicles. Look, for technologists like myself, it's pretty exciting to think about what this means for the technology adoption lifecycle. That's used to measure the adoption of new technologies over time. What we're seeing is that electric vehicles are moving out of that early adopter, that innovator phase, and going squarely into the mass market, which means that rapid future growth is just around the corner. And you don't have to take my word for it. There was a recent study by Bloomberg that looked at 19 countries, and they tried to study the adoption of electric vehicles to see if there were any interesting trends that could be uncovered. And what they found was that if a country reached 5% of new car sales going fully electric, that within 3 years, that country would reach nearly 25% adoption. If that trend holds true, that means the US is on the precipice of getting to 25% adoption as early as 2025. It is truly exciting times for the electric vehicle industry. At SemaConnect, we believe that there are 3 factors that are really driving the rapid growth and adoption in electric vehicles. A recent Consumer Reports study showed that over 70% of all licensed drivers in the US reported that they had a very strong preference for making an electric vehicle their next vehicle purchase. And this strength of preference was strong across all the various generations, from baby boomers, Generation X, and of course, the millennial. One thing, however, that all the generations agreed to the success of continuing this great adoption is that there needs to be a wide prevalence of electric vehicles to choose from. And you know what? That brings us to the second point, or the second factor. All of the vehicle manufacturers have heard this call And today, we're happy to report there's nearly an electric vehicle substitute for every class of gasoline-powered vehicle. From subcompact, economy, to luxury, to sports cars, electric vehicles have made their way throughout the car selection hierarchy. And the good news is that more and more choices are on the way, with vehicle manufacturers seeking to fill all the various niches, from trucks to exotic sports cars. Electric vehicles will soon become normative as a selection choice for car buyers. The third and final factor that we really believe is driving this growth in electric vehicle adoption is that there's been a widespread recognition from drivers, government, infrastructure providers that there are certain benefits that electric vehicles provide that outmatch their gasoline counterparts. Number one, from a cost savings perspective, electric vehicles cost 1/3 the amount to operate as compared to their gasoline-powered counterparts. And when it comes to performance, electric vehicles are on par and in many cases exceed the performance characteristics of gasoline-powered vehicles. And when it comes to sustainability and providing a positive impact on our environment from transportation, electric vehicles are hands down less pollutive and reduce the reliance on fossil fuels. And finally, when it comes to battery technology, the recent advances have just about eliminated any type of range anxiety that drivers would have. Today, drivers can feel confident that their car will be able to get at least 300 miles of charge, depending on the vehicle's make and model, which is more than enough to satisfy the great majority of transportation needs. So let's turn to kind of a new phenomenon that we are seeing when it comes to refueling vehicles. Look, with the onset of electric vehicles, what we're seeing is that there is a change in the vehicle fueling paradigm. Traditionally, with gas-powered vehicles, drivers would go to a gas station, take 5 minutes, fill up their car, and be on their way. But now that electric vehicles are gaining in popularity, what we are noticing is that drivers are adopting a smartphone charging routine to charge their electric vehicles. That means that they're looking to top off anywhere their car is parked, and that primary destination is at home. Next, they're looking to charge wherever their car is going to be parked for 1 or 2 hours, at a store, at a restaurant, at an educational institution. They want to be able to know and have that security that when they're there, they'll be able to top off their electric vehicle. And of course, there's always going to be those opportunities to charge at charging stations, especially if they're located on the highways for long trips. And that brings us to the next portion of our presentation, where I'd like to introduce Connie Meehan, who will talk about the value of bringing electric vehicle charging stations to your educational institution. Connie, the floor is yours.
Thanks so much, Stephen. That was a great summary of the industry. Those numbers increase every time I do this with you, so great to see. Great, so now we'll dive into specifically EV charging at your campus or educational facility. Benefits of EV charging at your campus. First, they can satisfy the rapidly increasing EV driver demand. As Stephen mentioned, there's over 2 million EVs on the road right now. You can also offer sustainable amenity to faculty and staff, enhance property curb appeal, gain a competitive advantage, generate additional ROI to help pay for some of the project, and complement your LEED program. We can meet the growing demand. In Q2 of 2020, 5.6% of all cars purchased were electric. That's an increase of 67% over this time last year. That's tremendous. I think this industry is growing faster than anyone had predicted. There's also over 300 different EV models that are now available to folks or coming soon. You'll want to consider the advantage you'll have over competing schools if you offer these EV charging stations at your campus. Enhance curb appeal and sustainability efforts. Our stations offer a sleek and modern design, which will give your facility an updated modern feel. Prospective faculty and staff and students would have a great first impression of your property. Many people look for more sustainable solutions. EV charging stations are a visible demonstration of your efforts. How do I know which EV charging station is right for my school? There's 7 factors to consider when you're evaluating EV charging stations. The first ones are, what are the benefits these stations will bring? Who do you want to have access to these stations? How much power is required to install charging stations? What will be the installation and maintenance required? You'll want to ensure a site evaluation is conducted, station form factor and aesthetic, customer service and warranty. About SemaConnect, now we'll jump into our company specifically. SemaConnect has been installing stations for close to 11 years now. We really were a pioneer in this EV charging industry. We have over 13,000 stations installed throughout North America. We offer over 1 million charging stations every year, and we have over 150,000 unique users on our platform. Here's kind of a snapshot of who our customers are. Some of the biggest verticals we sell into are workplace and multifamily. Anywhere where a car is naturally going to be parked for a few hours a day. Workplace, apartment. Also growing verticals for us are retail, corporations, hospitality, the government sector, parking companies, and healthcare. Here is our family of charging stations. So you'll see on the left, this is our Series 4 home charger. This is designed to be in a garage, charge 1 or 2 family cars, overnight while it's parked there. We also offer a Series 5 multifamily charger, which is great for condos. Our Series 6 station is designed for commercial use. We also have a Series 7 and 7 Plus, which is our elite charger, and our Series 8 and 8 Plus, which is our pro charger. Core EV charging station features. Our stations offer at a glance LED status. You'll notice there's a light at the top, which will indicate what the station is doing. When it's flashing green, that's how you know it's actively charging a car. When it's solid green, that means the car's finished charging. And when it's blue and solid, that means that the station is working and available. Our stations offer a sleek and compact form factor with rugged outdoor rated enclosure. We also offer wireless technology and a cloud-based station management platform. Smartphone or smart card users can access the charging stations. A credit card reader is available on our Series 8 station. We also offer automatic payment service with revenue capture for station owners. Our stations are all ENERGY STAR rated as well. We also offer DC fast chargers as part of our product portfolio, ranging from 30 kilowatts all the way up to 360 kilowatts. The DC fast chargers have a couple different charger plugs on them. There's the CCS, also a CHAdeMO, and they also offer AC functionality. These stations are designed for road trips, for folks wanting a quick charge to stop for a few minutes. We bring all of this together around the SemaConnect network. Our stations are all networked, which allows greater functionality for station owners and drivers. For owners, they can manage user groups, open it up to the public, or keep it private for employees or residents only. They can also set up pricing plans. They can view detailed reports and analysis. For EV drivers, they can initiate a charging session through an app. They can use the SemaConnect app, an app called PlugShare, or ChargeHub. They also can locate stations through the mapping tools and find public stations. The drivers can see real-time availability of the stations, be put into a queue to be notified when a station is available. And they can also pull personalized reports. The station offers robust reporting capabilities. A lot of properties want access to the transactions, who's using the stations. They also want to see what type of revenue they were able to capture, the utilization of the stations, and also what was the sustainability, the carbon offset of fossil fuels reduction using these stations. SemaConnect handles all the driver payment notifications and driver assistance. We also offer zero maintenance. The stations come with a 1-year full replacement warranty. We offer a variety of purchasing options to best fit your needs. Station purchase, which you would buy outright. We also offer a lease program, charging as a service, and SemaConnect owned for select locations. There are a lot of incentives right now to reduce your cost to get these stations installed at the federal level and also at the state and local level. A few of the state incentives and rebates programs across the country, one I'm most familiar with here in Colorado is the Charge Ahead Colorado grant, which will provide $9,000 for every dual port station. That grant is open 3 times a year for anyone to apply. Here's a snapshot of a few utility incentives and rebate programs. You can see Oregon, California, Hawaii, Colorado, Missouri, New Jersey, Florida, Texas, all across the country. Folks are wanting to make it easier to get these stations installed. A quick recap, there are many benefits to adding EV charging stations to your campus. SemaConnect offers the premium EV charging stations with zero required maintenance, full replacement warranty, 24/7 driver support, and easy installation by any certified electrician. There are also many federal, state, and utility incentives to take advantage of to get these stations installed.
Thank you, Connie. Thank you for sharing such great information with our audience around how they can get started with EV charging on their campus. I'd like to turn to some of the questions that have been provided since we began the session. One question for you, Connie, is, with the return to school post-COVID, are universities feeling the pinch when it comes to having EV charging on their campuses?
Yes, Stephen, I'm so glad you mentioned that. As students and faculty are returning to campus, a lot of them are bringing their EVs, and having your campus ready to charge their vehicles when they get there will really be ahead of the curve.
Yeah, great. Look, one of the things that I'm seeing in some of the questions that are coming in, a lot have to do with the types of chargers and their connectivity to different systems. So look, I'm just going to summarize this one as, what's the benefit of kind of a smart connected charger?
Thanks, Stephen. I'm glad you asked that. Yeah, the networking capability is very important to manage the demand for these stations. Often these drivers are actively charging for a couple hours at a time. What you want to prevent is these drivers from staying parked there all day if they're finished charging. So the station will now send the driver a text message letting them know, hey, your car's finished charging. Please move it so someone else can use the charging station. And the property also has the ability to cover their electricity cost.
That's interesting. I remember my time back in college when I used to work for the parking enforcement. And I remember students would always say, we didn't know we couldn't park here. We didn't know that our time was up. But it looks like with the electric vehicle charging stations, there will be no excuse, right? All the parkers, all of the drivers will know when their time is up and when it's time to move the car, thanks to the software that's part of the electric vehicle charging stations.
Yes, SemaConnect is happy to do that policing for you.
All right, let's go to the next question. Is there anyone at your company that can help me figure out where our stations should go and how many we should need? Like, do they do any consulting around that as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, we have close to, I don't know, about 30 reps across the country in the local markets who are more than happy to come on site, meet with you, review the stations, and also do a site walk with an electrical contractor. So, what they'll want to see is where the main electric panel is and how close that is to parking. And that will really help narrow down the location and quantity of stations and everything you need on that site visit.
All right. With these stations being on a college campus, they will get a lot of use. How reliable are they? And are there any maintenance costs?
I'm glad you asked that, Stephen. Yeah, all of our stations are connected to a 1-800 number. So if drivers have any issues, they're always welcome to call us and we will help them. They're also covered with a 1-year full replacement warranty. So if there were anything to happen with the station, we'll pay for an electrical contractor to come out and swap the unit for you.
Well, you mentioned during the presentation, Connie, there are two different types of charging stations, and I have a question that's coming up about that. Those larger ones are the DCFC charging stations. So, should a educational institution or campus have kind of a mix of charging stations, or will two suffice? What advice would you give to an educational campus in that regard?
Yeah, the DC fast chargers are a much bigger project than our level 2 charging stations. Those are often going in similar to a gas station along highways and corridors for folks doing road trips that are in a pinch. What's recommended for everyday charging really is a level 2 charging station for the battery and also for the budget. Level 2 stations are more cost effective and the installation cost is not as significant.
All right, perfect. Now, I had a question that came in. As an educational institution, are there any government incentives that you mentioned during the presentation that are applicable specifically for educational institutions, or are they just general?
Yeah, there's incentives across the country, both at the utility level and at the state level for these universities and educational facilities to take advantage of. And I recommend reaching out to your local sales rep to get more educated on what could apply to your property.
Well, Connie, I think this is all the time that we have today for questions. I'd like to thank you again for your participation in sharing all this great information. And I'd like to thank the audience who joined us today. Again, if you'd like to learn any additional information about SemaConnect, we invite you to visit us at semaconnect.com and to follow us on LinkedIn. Thank you again, and have a good rest of the day.